Welcome back. The cement market in this country is supplied almost totally from one source. 95% of the cement used in the Republic comes from Irish cement, which is now, with Roadstone, part of a mushrooming building industry multinational. Cement Roadstone Holdings, or CRH plc, published their annual results today, declaring pre-tax profits of nearly £46 million, about a 25% increase on last year, and showing that their Irish business now accounts for only about 20% of their whole operation. But it was on their Irish base, particularly the original and continuing monopoly of Irish cement, that the company's present expansion was built. So great was their stranglehold over the market that any disruption in Irish cement's operations, as happened with industrial disputes in the late 70s, could bring the construction industry in this country to a halt. The company's influence has been such that, according to its critics in the building industry, special government rules were seen to operate in such a way as to ensure that Irish cement held on to its monopoly position. And what of the people who've tried to challenge that monopoly? Well, they haven't had an easy time of it, as Liam O'Flanagan reports.
November 1987, and the assignment begins. The observer sets up base at the Five Counties Hotel. From room 24, he has an ideal view of the harbour. Cement Roadstone Holdings, otherwise known as CRH, want information on the activities of one Noel O'Brien.
They watched our premises from various hotels here in New Ross. In some instances, in fact, they spent a week at a time observing our ships being discharged.
O'Brien imports cement through the fast-growing port of New Ross. In his best year, he achieved only 30,000 tonnes. With such a tiny share of the cement market, his story of tough business methods by a company with a turnover of 700 million is truly remarkable.
It has seriously affected our business. It has offended many of our customers.
O'Brien's customers are also being closely monitored. This firm of concrete manufacturers just outside Cork was one of his earlier clients. Using foreign cement can also create problems.
There's pressure coming from somewhere. This is coming from the CRH.
Have you any evidence to back that up?
Well, the rep was being an out to me at O'Callaghan, and he was beyond me all the time, like, about this imported cement. They used to follow the trucks on the road and into building sites. The builders were ringing me back to know was I using imported cement. It made things hard on me to sell my products. They threatened the builders to get the grant stopped.
Well, give me an example of that particular instance.
Well, the builder could be getting £4,000 of a grant or 5,000, and they threatened to get them stopped if we didn't stop, if the builder didn't stop using imported cement.
Cement is the lifeblood of the concrete manufacturer's business, and CRH will take whatever measures to frustrate and impede the use of other than their own product. O'Regan's son was offered an incentive to stop delivering imported cement.
He offered me work for my tanker and maybe one or two more at that particular time, you know.
How did you regard that offer?
Well, it was like if I wasn't importing the cement, I wouldn't have got the offer in the first place, anything.
And what was your response?
Well, I just told him no way. Won't be done. We have to look after ourselves, and that's it, family business, and we look after ourselves and we do the best we can.
CRH are the sole manufacturers of cement in the south. One of their plants is at Platten, just outside Drogheda. But back in the late 70s, the combined capacity of Drogheda and their second plant at Limerick wasn't enough to satisfy the market. To make up the shortfall, Limerick was expanded. The grant-aided development cost well over £100 million. Before it came on stream, however, a history of crippling strikes, combined with the shortage of manufacturing capacity, had the building industry in turmoil. In those boom years, domestic demand for cement was going through the roof. There was increasing disillusionment with the sole supplier and its activities. In an attempt to satisfy the high level of domestic demand, they started importing cement. It is somewhat ironic that they were the first to do so. By this stage, customer relations were at an all-time low and prices went sky high.
For 4 years, we saw dreadful price increases. They averaged out approximately 27, 28% a year. And I think they'd have great difficulty in justifying those prices to the construction industry.
A number of our customers having difficulty getting continuity of supply. They approached us at that time, and we've been importing since.
They had a monopoly here, and if you have a monopoly, I suppose you can do what you want to.
Because of this, in the early 80s, there was a demand for alternative sources of supply. A number of independent importers started up. They were the IAWS, who provided mainly agricultural co-ops with bagged cement. Pat O'Carroll of Ardfert Quarries, who imported through Cork. Tom Good, the biggest, with bulk cement facilities at Wicklow, a potential threat to CRH's Dublin market. And there was Noel O'Brien in New Ross, who was the first importer. The new importers found the cement trade a tough business. CRH, who are committed to heavy capital investment at their Limerick plant, were not about to let go of their almost total control of the entire market. It would take more than a few small, overambitious cement importers to do that. Using the vast network at their disposal, information gathering took on a new meaning. CRH were determined to hold on to their dominant position.
They were using cameras in order to take snaps or photographs of our lorries to establish the whereabouts and as to where these lorries were going to. And following that, they normally applied pressure on the customer who received the goods not to buy our cement.
When challenged about their activities, CRH were kind enough to send O'Brien a full-colour print of one of his consignments. The intelligence net spread to every corner of the country. In the village of Mullinahone, County Tipperary, one of O'Brien's smallest customers attracted the attention of CRH. In spite of adverse publicity in a local paper about selling foreign cement, this client remained loyal.
At that particular time, I was more than happy dealing with Noel O'Brien. I got a very good service, and I had no complaints. I told their rep that, and at that stage he said, if you don't sell it, he said, we'll get somebody else that will.
What kind of a message did you think he was trying to give you?
I think he was trying to imply that somebody else would stock it.
Not content with pressurizing O'Brien's customers at home, and since their attempts in any case were having limited success, CRH decided to travel abroad. They were, after all, a multinational company now, with a certain amount of muscle in the international marketplace. A visit to O'Brien's foreign supplier might cut off his source of cement.
I made arrangements with my Spanish suppliers to arrange for a contract to be made. And subsequently, it came to my notice that, in fact, Cement Roadstone had shortly afterwards visited the suppliers there and asked them to, again, break off supplies. Or, if that was not possible, if they could increase the price of the cement.
But surely with this information you went back to CRH and you asked them what exactly they were doing.
Well, Cement Roadstone accepted that they did visit the plant on a number of occasions, and they did apply pressure, but they found that was necessary in order to sustain their monopoly position. They have made 4 visits to our suppliers in Spain, and our Spanish suppliers have continued to inform us of these visits and of the types of pressure that has been applied to have the source cut off. They have not been at all happy with this level of intimidation, and they have committed to continue supplying us. I spoke to Cement Roadstone concerning this episode, and in fact they accepted that they were entitled to do this.
CRH claimed the importers were buying dumped foreign cement, and the EEC agreed in some cases. When interviewed in 1983, CRH made no apologies for their actions.
I have tried every legal means possible to put an end to the unfair competition, to the dumping that we're faced with.
Doesn't that suggest...
And I consider that that is a vital part of my job, to protect the industry that I'm charged with managing in this country.
The quality and stability of cement as a product has always been of concern and importance to the construction industry. It is manufactured to Irish Standard 1. In addition, the Institute for Industrial Research and Standards in 1983 drew up a quality control scheme known as certification. The Department of the Environment backed up the scheme, which laid down conditions for the manufacture, transportation and storage of cement. In 1984, the department issued instructions to local authorities throughout the country that they should only use, in local authority works, cement certified in accordance with the standard mark of the IRS. This new government policy provided CRH with an excellent opportunity to secure its monopoly position, and its Buy Irish campaign became another weapon against importation.
This relationship with government is not untypical in other European countries. For instance, when a couple of years ago, the Greek cement industry, casting around for some market to replace the Arab markets, which they had lost with the drop in oil prices, when they sailed up the Thames, within a week, it was mentioned in the House of Commons, and the Prime Minister, no less, of the UK, was crying foul.
All governments have traditionally supported the domestic manufacture of cement, but some in the industry here saw certification as something else.
Obviously, the concrete industry would feel that it was a ploy by CRH to hold on to their monopoly position and to thwart the threat of importation.
How would that work in practice?
Well, it did to some extent work in practice, in particular where local authorities were demanding through their specification procedures that only Irish cement or certified cement be used.
For the concrete manufacturer who provided the raw materials for the building trade, there was a knock-on effect. Products such as concrete blocks made from imported cement were now becoming unacceptable, and its use was restricted.
They were on to know what we using imported cement, and we said we were. So they stopped supplies from us. So for to get back in again, we had to go down and produce another cement, Weybridge docker, to say that we were buying both from Irish cement and from Noel O'Brien.
Well, certification, in our view, was a message which had government support with the primary intention of restricting imports. And we found this had a major impact on our company.
In what way?
It completely frustrated the possibility of developing our company. It meant we had to make representations to Brussels on the grounds that was in contravention of Article 30 of the Treaty of Rome.
Oh, I have a lot of sympathy for Noel O'Brien's position. I accompanied him to the Institute for Industrial Research and Standards when he did make a realistic attempt to have a cement certified, and I think his experience would be frustrating.
And his approaches to the various institutions, how did they go?
I gather, without being specifically involved with him, that, to put it mildly, he had obstacles put in his way.
The arrival of imports on the scene has been a threat to every aspect of our business. It's been a threat to our profits, it's been a threat to the survival of the group, and it's been a threat to the jobs of the people who make their livelihood in the group.
Prior to certification, CRH had set out to win back loyalty, to consolidate their position, and to counteract allegations of overpricing and lack of concern with customer needs. They introduced a special rebate scheme. The scheme was attractive, but with strict conditions. All cement requirements must be purchased exclusively from CRH for an agreed period of 3 years, and anyone buying imported cement during that period would lose their rebate.
In the particular time in question, we didn't have a great alternative, and you must remember that it was the first time ever that the price of cement had been decreased.
But that was only in response to the reality of importation.
Well, that's the benefit, we would say, of competition in the marketplace, and even the faint threat of competition. And you know, while it certainly may have been questionable, and was questioned by a number of our members, at the same time, you know, £2.50 per tonne cement was not to be something that we could throw away.
We've tried in this end of the market at home to win back the loyalty of our customers by various rebate schemes and advertising schemes. We've gone to the supply end, and we've protested in the most vehement fashion to the producers who are shipping this cement out of their plants at dumped prices. And we've gone further. We've gone to the European Commission in Brussels, and we have lodged a formal anti-dumping complaint in respect of that quantity of cement which is coming from outside the European community. We don't apologise to anyone for this. We're fighting for the survival of our industry. and in the interests of the building industry.
As a cement importer, you have to guarantee consistent quality. You have to guarantee continuity of supply at a lower price than the existing supplier. You also have to have quite substantial financial backing.
So how did the importers get on? Noel O'Brien, in spite of all the obstacles, has a new import facility at New Ross. The IAWS is still importing bagged cement, but only 35,000 tonnes. Tom Good's bulk cement operation at Wicklow is gone. CRH bought him out, and Pat O'Carroll of Ardfert Quarries was taken over. The company survived, but the importing stopped.
I suppose importation has had certainly a significant effect in controlling the price of cement. But as a business proposition, it certainly hasn't been successful.
The experience of the Ardfert Quarry Company tells its own story. Starting out modestly in the quarry business, supplying stone and manufactured products such as blocks and ready-mix concrete, it rapidly increased its market share. When a prominent CRH company in the area, John A. Wood, hit back by cutting prices, Pat O'Carroll started importing his own cement.
John A. Wood Limited, who are a wholly owned subsidiary of CRH. And originally, or initially, when we had a small share of the market, we got very little bother from them. But as soon as we grabbed a major share of the business down there, they reacted very strongly. And vicious price war ensued. And we found that our whole future in the business was put into jeopardy. And until I had some other source of income or some other way of getting at CRH, then we had no future. And it was then that I contemplated the cement.
But imported cement didn't solve Ardfert's problem. They were already a big customer of Irish cement and owed them £150,000. This, combined with the price war for concrete products, soon had Pat O'Carroll on his knees. There was a takeover. Under threat of a High Court hearing, CRH moved in. Pat O'Carroll has a share in the new setup. I asked him recently, what did he learn?
A great deal of lessons, more or less like, don't take on a big fella if he's too big.
O'Carroll was no longer an independent in his own right. There was now one less competitor in concrete products in Kerry. The marketing strategy of John A. Wood suddenly changed. Concrete block prices now went up.
Automatically, within a month or 6 weeks, we were faced with a price increase of approximately £100 per thousand.
We like to see the independent concrete manufacturers stay in business, because I think they, if they weren't there, the prices generally would go through the roof.
The independent concrete suppliers and the bigger suppliers are fighting it out for every load. Every load seems to be important.
Johnny Wood, who became part of the CRH group in the early 70s, are now in a very strong position. They have several concrete manufacturing plants and sales outlets in the Cork and Kerry region. In spite of the present recession, they are still determined to hold their share of the market. Using their dominant position, they have recently approached a number of independents with certain proposals.
One of John A. Wood's people rang me, said he wanted to organise a meeting to fix prices. And we had a meeting. There was myself and Ready Mix, Era, John A. Woods', Ellis's, Conhealy, Milton, Milebush, to fix prices. So we had 2 meetings, and it broke up after that. They wanted to make cartel, that you take one builder and I take another builder. But I wouldn't go ahead in it.
Why not?
I felt it wasn't the right thing to do.
Moving from Cork to Kerry, more meetings took place.
At this meeting, it was suggested by their director, David Horgan, that the market being what it was, their suggestion was that it be carved up and divided out. What they suggested to me was that if I were to stay south of Glenbeigh and only work the South Kerry area, that an arrangement could be made and prices could be improved, and that every one would be happy then from the selling point of view. But this was unacceptable to me because I couldn't leave my customers, or I don't know what I would go back to them and tell them. Customers that I was serving in Mid-Kerry, North Kerry, in Milltown, where I had drivers and where my staff were from. What was I going to tell these people? So the meeting came to nothing. Only we broke up at stalemate.
No cartel agreement ever took place. Such an agreement would have infringed the Restrictive Trades Practices Order, which states there shall not be any agreement, arrangement or understanding between two or more suppliers as to the prices at which goods will be supplied. In 1970, when Irish Cement Limited, the only manufacturer of cement in the south, joined forces with the biggest construction company and its best customer, the legendary Tom Roach's Roadstone, the controversial merger created the giant multinational CRH, Cement Roadstone Holdings. The Independent Concrete Manufacturers Association was set up in 1981 in response to what they regarded as harassment and unfair competition. It was an attempt to counteract the stranglehold that CRH had on the marketplace.
Basically, the position was, and to some extent still is, that they were having to purchase their cement from one supplier, Irish Cement, while on the other hand, they were having to compete very, very vigorously and toughly in the marketplace against Roadstone, the other part of the CRH company.
Material is transferred from the cement company, cement, to the other group companies on exactly the same terms as it is transferred and sold to other non-group companies. Exactly.
CRH were also asked about interest-free loans from Irish Cement to Roadstone, or any other form of cross-subsidisation.
I'm stating categorically that Roadstone are treated no differently as a cement customer than any other cement customer in this country, utilising the same volumes of material.
Kilkenny Block is run by two former Roadstone employees. 6 years ago, they bought a small concrete block company and successfully built up their concrete manufacturing business. But with the decline in the domestic housing sector, they decided to diversify. They set up a Tarmacadam plant and went searching for contracts. When they landed the major job for the Kilkenny bypass, Roadstone weren't too pleased.
Naturally enough, like any opposition, they weren't very pleased about it, especially when they control most of the market.
So what did they do?
Well, I have to assume that as a consequence to us setting up, they open up a block plant just down the road from us. And not a block plant, but a compound, a block compound. And they're bringing blocks from Care.
And what's your understanding of that kind of move?
Well, it's obviously a move to cause some difficulties. They're certainly selling the blocks at below cost as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Well, why wouldn't they take you on the Tarmacadam side rather than try to squeeze you out in the block side?
Well, they are actually competing with us on the Tarmacadam. They don't have a plant in Kilkenny, but they do compete from their plant in Waterford, as indeed we do in the Waterford area from here.
Well, I think what's happening in Kilkenny with the Kilkenny Block Company is indefensible by any means. I think it's an absolute disgrace. And again, I think if CRH weren't in the position that they're in, they couldn't behave the way they are. We have a situation where the company doesn't even have a manufacturing presence in the area. They simply set up a marketing yard. They're buying from a local manufacturer at an alleged price and allegedly selling below that price. So, I mean, it's a clear example of where there's a deliberate attempt, and a stated attempt by the company to put significantly enough one of their own customers out of business. And I think that's really indefensible by any standards.
Well, I think the reason that the subsidiary can take us on is mainly because they are being subsidised by the cement profits. And they can afford, obviously, to sell at a loss, which we can't.
Well, what about the cement monopoly situation?
Well, I think we all feel that that's wrong, especially like seeing that Irish Cement is marketed in the Republic at something over £50 a tonne, and they're selling the same cement in the north of Ireland for less than £40 a tonne.
Competition has played a significant role in this difference of over £10 a tonne north of the border. In 1983, the Lagan Company began importing German cement through Belfast, mainly for their concrete business and for sale throughout Northern Ireland. The immediate effect was a vicious price war, but Lagan was strong enough to match pound for pound the dominant cement manufacturer in the North Blue Circle. this pressure on the British multinational Blue Circle to drop prices paid off.
That means £7 million a year. If we're continuing that now for 4 years, that's about £28 million of a reduction. We would see that as something positive on our side, because that has gone straight back into the construction industry, and I suppose when you count 28 or 30 million pounds, that would be the equivalent of building about 1,000 or 1,200 houses.
A major achievement sparked off by a successful import operation which led to competition in the north. Kevin Lagan went abroad for cement due to frustration. This owner of a large concrete manufacturing company could no longer rely on the sole domestic supplier's Blue Circle to meet his requirements of 50,000 tonnes of cement a year. He was dissatisfied with the service.
We had problems from time to time getting supplied with cement, the quality of cement as well. And also we could import cheaper than what we could buy cement on the local market at.
Well, who were we depending upon for your supply before that?
Before that, we had only one supplier, which was Blue Circle. And in times of shortage, we just had to do without. And we had no other choice.
What about south?
We had tried on a number of occasions and could not be supplied from the south. The reason we were told at that stage is that CRH had a contract to supply Blue Circle and they wouldn't supply anyone else.
CRH's Irish Cement Limited supplies cement to Northern Ireland from its plant in Drogheda. Bulk deliveries go by rail to Belfast and at a cheaper price than they charge in the south. The cement is supplied to Blue Circle, who market it in their own name. A cosy arrangement, perhaps.
Well, CRH, who is the holding company for Irish Cement, have quite a number of companies in the UK. Some of these companies, in fact, buy substantial quantities of cement from Blue Circle in the UK. And I suppose in the interests of orderly marketing, it was preferable for CRH to supply Blue Circle's excess requirements, or the requirements that they couldn't supply themselves in Northern Ireland, rather than to attempt to take more than their share of the market in Northern Ireland.
CRH are currently selling their cement in Northern Ireland at a considerably lower price than in the south. How can they do that?
The main reason why the price is lower in Northern Ireland is that there is ample and very sustained competition in Northern Ireland.
So why hasn't Lagan Cement been able to create the same competition in the south?
In the past 3 years, we haven't been that successful in the southern market because of the certification scheme. We would consider that this is certain restrictive practices. It certainly makes life very difficult for a cement producer to get certified in this scheme.
A number of complaints have been made to the European Commission on the certification issue over the years. In July 1987, following EEC pressure, the Department of the Environment in Dublin sent out a new circular. Public authorities were now advised that cement certified to an international standard or to a national standard of another member state of the EEC could also be used on public construction works. The door would now seem to be open.
The people in the EEC Commission said to me is that the Irish government cannot drive coach and horses through this scheme. They can't take money from the EEC to build roads and bridges and houses on the one hand and put restrictive barriers up with the other.
While the Lagan company was having limited success penetrating the southern market with their imported cement, they decided to attack on another front. Already a major Tarmacadam contractor in the north, they competed against CRH's subsidiary Roadstone and landed the big job of laying Tarmacadam for the Lucan bypass, just outside Dublin.
We started to look at the southern market. The prices in Dublin were much more attractive than what they are up here. We won a contract on the Lucan bypass, and which we started just before last Christmas.
Well, how did you win that particular contract?
Purely on price. We offered the contractor a much more competitive price than what he was able to obtain locally.
The heat was now turned on full blast. Competing in another area of the construction industry also met with resistance. Lagan was determined to break through into the southern market. He brought a mobile Tarmacadam plant from the north for the job, but you can't make the black stuff without stone.
I approached Roadstone. They were the biggest supplier. I spoke to Dermot Quirk and he point blankly refused to supply us. I went to two others, one who had agreed to supply us, suddenly shortly afterwards he couldn't supply us, and he refused to supply us. We went then to another supplier, and he also refused to supply us. At that stage we had employed a haulage contractor, and we'd asked him to go and buy the material in his name, and we would pay him for it. He was followed on a number of occasions and was also then refused to be supplied as well. Really, there seemed to be pressure being put on from somewhere because we were there to compete.
So what did you have to do in the end?
In the end, we bought an interest in a quarry which we had intended to set up, and we just had to haul from there, and we got one supplier in Cavan, which was a long way off, and he supplied us to get us going.
CRH were now concerned about this tough competitor. A more serious threat was Lagan's bulk cement facility at Belfast Docks. Importation had already pulled down cement prices in the north. If Lagan made inroads into the south, the same could happen, and CRH's profits would suffer. To avoid this scenario, they bought out the Lagan operation for a reported $3 million. The intention was to take up his market share. For some reason or other, the plan backfired. Shortly after the deal, Kevin Lagan built a new handling facility right beside the one he had just sold to CRH. He was back in the cement import business and still a threat.
Did CRH buy a pub?
Well, I was quite happy with the money that they paid me, and since that we have started up in business again.
Well, my understanding is that CRH felt they had a gentleman's agreement about all this.
Well, it expressly said in the document that they signed that this was for the sale of the assets and not for the sale of a business. So, you know, it was there in black and white.
Did the Lucan bypass incident colour the deal in any way?
Not as far as I was concerned. I was quite annoyed with their attitude on the Lucan bypass. I thought it was small-minded. I'm in business and I've got to compete with people. If I can't compete, well, then I would simply fold up and go away.
But another man who has no intention of folding up and going away is the owner of an hotel and two well-known pubs in Dublin, Sean Quinn.
Well, lads, how are you doing?
A former captain of the Fermanagh County team, his most ambitious project to date is to make cement and sell it north and south. Quinn's new plant, now under construction at Derrylin, County Fermanagh, half a mile from the Cavan border, will cost in the region of £30 million. The capacity will be 500,000 tonnes of cement. Will there be any benefit to the consumer out of this?
Oh, it'll be considerable benefit, because what we've had, as I said, in the last 20 years, we've had some years we had as high as 35–40% cement price increases. In the last 5 years, because of the imports and because of our intentions, cement has increased by less than 4%. I think cement will reduce further in the next 12 months. And that'll be of a great benefit, not only to the consumer, but to the nation. They're paying too much for their, probably reduce the price of house by £500 a house.
But a gain for the consumer will be a loss for Cement Roadstone Holdings. CRH already has massive overcapacity. Quinn's new plant can only make a bad situation worse. The CRH team flew into action.
We used to fly an aeroplane over here about every 6 weeks or so to see how we were getting on and taking aerial photographs. They used to fly around for 15–20 minutes. Those were presented at the Board Pernala hearing in Cavan. They felt that they might be able to find something from their aerial photographs that might be contrary to what planners should require. And as well as that, I'm sure they want to see how we're getting on, or when we might go bankrupt, or whether we're overspending.
Quinn has already established himself as a successful concrete products manufacturer. But with a price tag of £30 million, his new venture needed major financial backing. Cement Roadstone Holdings now went to his bankers.
From the horse's mouth, they did approach our bankers. Security Pacific and the Northern Bank were both approached and both influenced.
But would you regard that as fair game, or would you regard it as below the belt?
I'd say it's a bit below the belt, but maybe if I was as uncompetitive as CRH is, then I might have to do something similar.
It was now CRH's turn to go to Europe. In an action brought before the Commission, Irish Cement Limited tried to stop Quinn availing of British government grants.
I suppose they felt that if, with a small company like ourselves, that if we weren't able to get grants to the tune of 40–50%, we wouldn't be able to raise the money to build the factory. So that's the grant we initially expected to get, somewhere in the region of 35–50%. But when we only got 20, we accepted it. We were very disappointed when the grant was reduced in October from 20% to 12.5%. And the grant is now off altogether, so we have to finish the factory without grant. We think that we have been fairly harshly treated.
Now, you say you're going to split your cement sales between North and South. Why should anybody in the South buy your cement?
Why would they not buy our cement? Our cement is coming from Southern Quarry. All our limestone, which is 70% of the manufacture, is coming from a Southern Quarry. We have 200 Southern employees. I live in the South. Why would they not buy our cement?
What about price?
At a price cheaper than it presently is. So we would expect that we will get the support of people that are interested in making money.
Well, we're joined by Declan Doyle, the Managing Director of the Roadstone Wood group of companies of CRH. Declan Doyle, a story there of years of pressure to maintain a monopoly so that the price of cement can be kept up. Wasn't a lot of it questionable pressure?
Olivia, I think to answer that question, you've got to see the situation in perspective. We are a major Irish company. We have locations all over the country, in every small community. We have 3,000 employees in the south and 1,000 employees in the north. We've also 9,500 shareholders and have invested over the last 15 years £300 million of their money in Ireland, and in fact 60 million of that in the last 5 years, even though the volume of business in Ireland has declined seriously during that period. We have a long-term commitment to this country. I would also say that in respect of the film we've just seen, that we've seen the views of a potential cement manufacturer, we've seen the views of some importers, and I think they've said what I'd have expected them to say. We've also seen what I would say are the unrepresentative views of a number of customers. I would think that the large majority of our customers, 99% of them, acknowledge the improvements we have made in terms of service and supply to them over the last number of years.
Right, well, can we deal with some of the people who came up specifically there? And a lot of them talked about things that might surprise some of these customers you talked about. I mean, for instance, Noel O'Brien of New Ross, a cement importer. He says that you spied on him, that an employee of the company or somebody hired from the company spied from a local hotel with binoculars, that loads which were being delivered to his customers were followed, that his customers were told to stop buying the imported cement that he brought in, that you even went as far as going to Spain to his suppliers and asking them to stop supplying him or even to raise their price.
Well, what you're talking about there, Olivia, is it's necessary in business to know the competitive strength of your customer, your competitors and yourselves. You've got to find this out.
And the strongest wins?
No, I think it's not that at all. It's a question of knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors. In respect of Spain, we certainly went over there and spoke to potential suppliers, because had we not done so, I think we would have failed in our duty to our own employees, whose jobs depended on the actions we took to preserve them. I think it's interesting in respect of Spain that naturally we told people over there that we could consider or would have to consider supplying. And it was impossible to supply cement to Spain because the duty on cement we would have supplied there was £10 a tonne. The corresponding duty on cement imported into Ireland is 50p or something. It was impossible to do it.
Moving on, Padraig O'Rourke of Kilkenny Blocks talks there about the fact that when they set up a Terra Macadam plant, they diversified, and they won the Kilkenny Bypass project, that Roadstone, one of your companies, retaliated by buying in rival concrete blocks from Kerr and selling them down the road below price, and that they saw this as a deliberate attempt to put, in fact, you know, one of your own companies, a company you supply, out of business.
Olivia, I think you've got to see this thing in the context of the market in Ireland over the last 6-7 years. Volumes have gone down by over 50%. We have 52 locations all over the country, and I think it would be extraordinary if in that situation of gross oversupply everywhere at all times was peace and harmony. Fights break out, there are price wars, people seek to increase their business. I think we have to defend our volumes and the jobs of our employees.
But is it fair for you to be using, as certainly these people suggested, Roadstone and John A. Wood as weapons against other concrete block makers and road surfacers to undersell them and using Irish cement profits to subsidise doing
But that's not the case at all, Olivia. Each company within CRH is an independent company and has to make its own profit and return its own figures. There's absolutely no question.
Isn't it a funny
cross-subsidisation.
coincidence then that it was Roadstone was the company who moved in down the road from the Kilkenny Block Company and began to sell
Olivia,
concrete
Roadstone
blocks,
had
as
always
they
sold,
said, below
Roadstone
price?
had always sold blocks in Kilkenny, and in fact, there are far more producers in the Kilkenny area than Roadstone in any event. Now, I think that, look, it's a very, very difficult market, a very, very competitive market. We have to defend our volumes and the jobs of our employees.
Even to the extent of going as Sean Quinn, who's building a cement plant in Fermanagh, which can't be great news for you. He says that you went to his bank, Security Pacific in London, and that you also went to the Northern Bank, and he feels that both of them were influenced. And he says that's below the belt.
Well, say what he will. All major companies maintain constant and, ongoing relationships with their banks. They discuss matters relating to the market. And as you can imagine, Sean Quinn's advent was a major event in the market.
So part of the relationship is putting the frighteners on them about rivals?
No, I think that, Olivia, what we're talking about is keeping banks informed. All major companies do it. You have to keep doing it. They must know what's happening. They must know what's going on in the marketplace.
Right, let's turn to Kevin Lagan of Lagan Cement. He won the Lucan bypass job. And he says when he came down, he found that Roadstone, of course, the CRH group, wouldn't supply him with stone, that other local sources mysteriously dried up, that the haulage contractor who went to buy stone on his behalf was followed, and in the end he had to haul it in from Cavan.
Well, you make two essential points there, Olivia. First of all, he wasn't prepared to accept our terms and conditions of supply, so that was his decision. But I think as a prudent businessman, when he decided to undercut not alone Roadstone but other potential suppliers, other potential contractors for that job, he would, one would imagine, and I think you might ask him this, have had his prices and his supplies lined up.
You say it's his own fault?
Well, I'm not saying it's his own fault, but I mean, if I was going in to undercut a job, I think I would be damn sure I had my supplies lined up now.
Right,
in respect of other people, I don't know.
Can we turn to Kevin Lagan in Belfast on that issue? Kevin Lagan, what's your view of how CRH behaved? And I mean, are you now going to take them on by supplying cheaper cement from the north?
Well, we certainly intend to supply cement from the north into the south, and it would not be difficult to supply it cheaper than what CRH are currently supplying. They talk there about dumping cement. I would challenge them in dumping because they're selling cement. X there works at about approximately £52 Irish. They're selling in Belfast presently at about £39 Irish, and they have a great additional cost in bringing it up. So their price for cement up here is below £30 a tonne. So there's a huge difference between the price of cement in the south and what it is in the north. And I say that they are dumping cement.
Right, what about that, Declan? That you can sell the cement an awful lot cheaper in Northern Ireland, whereas here, your biggest market, you're selling it dearer. It means that everybody's house is dearer. It means that the enormous contracts that the government has out for housing, building, road creation is that much dearer to the taxpayer.
Well, I think the problems of the construction industry in Ireland are not the problems of the price of cement. They're far greater than that. They're the state of the national economy. But go back now to the question of dumping cement in the north. We are dumping cement in the north because the price in the north of Ireland is determined by dumped imports from East Germany, Spain and Germany.
You can't get away with the prices you would charge down here, in other words.
No, it's not that at all. I mean, it's simply if you wish to be in that market, and we have to be in that market, we have to accept the going rate.
Right, can I bring John Maguire in here? He says that the price of cement is not one of the main problems of the construction industry down here, is it?
Globally, I would agree with that. But having said that, I think it is rather ironic that Irish cement can compete and will compete. Irish cement are competing, as Kevin Lagan says, in the northern market. I don't accept that it's dumping. I think that profits are such on cement that Irish cement can sell at a profit in the Irish market probably 15, 20 pounds a tonne cheaper than they are in the Republic of Ireland. And I think, that we hear today that CRH have made £46 million profit, and I would like to compliment Declan and his company for that. But we must remember that £16 million of that has come out of the construction industry in Ireland. I think CRH owe a tremendous debt to the construction industry in Ireland. because over the years Irish Cement has been the power base of their company, and it has been used to build a multinational company, which we're all proud of.
Right, so they should pay back that company.
Yes, I think where the profits, where the advantage should be given is to the home market.
Okay, Declan Doyle, I'm coming back to you for one quick point. One of the points made during the film, which was that on 2 occasions, representatives of John A. Woods met in Cork with Dermot O'Regan and Kerry with John Quirk. They say they were at the meetings, and the meetings were to fix prices, and that's against the law down here under the Restrictive Practices Order of 1955.
Olivia, from time to time you get allegations of that kind.
You say it didn't happen?
I'm saying that we were, or not we particularly, but a number of companies in the west of Ireland were investigated by the Examiner of Restricted Practices, and he found no substance to the allegations.
Right, so you say that John Quirk and Dermot O'Regan are not telling the truth?
No, what I'm saying is this, is that in a very, very tight market, where volumes are declining all the time, that if people seek continuously to increase their volumes and to put our people's livelihood and our volumes under threat, we have to react.
You're saying you never met to fix prices?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what the man said. I want to say thank you to John Maguire, to Declan Doyle and to Kevin Lagan in Belfast. That's all we've got time for this evening. We'll be back tomorrow evening at our usual time. Of course, that's after the news. Until then, good night.